Will Smith was having a terrible day. The famous actor had just finished a long, frustrating meeting with movie producers who wanted to change everything about his new film. His phone wouldn't stop ringing with calls from his agent about publicity appearances he didn't want to make. And to top it all off, he had just spilled coffee on his favorite white shirt. Will was usually a kind and positive person. Fans loved him for his big smile and friendly attitude. He was known for treating everyone with respect, from famous directors to the people who brought coffee to movie sets. But today, something inside him fell off. The pressure of being famous, of always having to be perfect, was getting to him. "I need a break," Will muttered to himself as he walked down the busy street in Los Angeles. He had put on a baseball cap and sunglasses, hoping no one would recognize him. He just wanted a few hours to himself without cameras or fans asking for autographs. As Will walked, he noticed a small dog tied to a bike rack outside a coffee shop. It was a cute terrier mix with scruffy brown fur and alert eyes. The dog wagged its tail when it saw Will looking at it. Usually, Will loved animals. He had grown up with dogs and had often talked in interviews about how much he enjoyed their unconditional love. But today, with his mood so dark, a strange thought crossed his mind. What if he pretended to kick the dog? Not actually kick it, he would never hurt an animal, but just make a kicking motion to see how people would react. Maybe it would make him laugh. Maybe it would break the tension he was feeling. It would just be a joke, Will thought to himself. I won't even touch the dog. Will looked around. The coffee shop was busy, and no one seemed to be watching him. He took a deep breath and made a quick kicking motion toward the dog, stopping his foot before it made contact. The little terrier yelped in fear and backed away as far as its leash would allow. Its tail tucked between its legs, and it cowered against the wall. Immediately, Will felt awful. What had he been thinking? This wasn't funny. It was mean and completely unlike him. He had scared an innocent animal for no reason. "I'm sorry, little guy," Will said softly to the dog, which was still trembling. A woman at a nearby table had seen what happened. "Hey," she called out angrily. "What do you think you're doing to that dog?" Will turned, embarrassed and ashamed. "I'm sorry. I didn't actually touch him. It was a stupid thing to do." The woman squinted at him, suddenly recognizing who he was despite the hat and sunglasses. "Wait, aren't you Will Smith? I can't believe you would scare a dog like that." Will felt his face grow hot with shame. This was bad. Very bad. If someone took a picture or video of this moment, it would be all over the internet within hours. "Will Smith kicks dog" would be the headline everyone was talking about. Just then, the door of the coffee shop opened, and a large, muscular man with tattoos and a shaved head stepped out. He was carrying a cup of coffee and looking for something. When his eyes landed on the frightened dog, his expression changed from casual to concerned. It was Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. The Rock loved his dog, Brutus. The little terrier had been with him for 3 years, ever since he found him abandoned near a movie set. Despite his tough guy image, The Rock had a soft spot for animals, especially dogs. Brutus went everywhere with him, including to his morning coffee stops. "What's going on?" The Rock asked, noticing his dog's frightened state. He put his coffee down and quickly moved to untie Brutus's leash. The woman who had called out Will spoke up again. "That man pretended to kick your dog," she said, pointing at Will. "He scared the poor thing." The Rock looked up, his eyes narrowing as he recognized Will Smith despite the disguise. "Will? Is that true?" Will felt sick with shame. Not only had he frightened an innocent dog, but that dog belonged to someone he knew and respected. The Rock and Will had met at various Hollywood events and had always been friendly, though they weren't close friends. "Dwayne, I'm so sorry," Will said using The Rock's real name. "I don't know what came over me. I've been having a terrible day, and I did something stupid and cruel. But that's no excuse." The Rock picked up Brutus, who was still trembling slightly. The dog pressed against his chest, seeking comfort. The Rock's face was stern, his usual friendly smile nowhere to be seen. "You're right. That's no excuse," The Rock said, his voice low and serious. I wouldn't have expected this from you, Will. Everyone has bad days, but we don't take them out on innocent animals. Will nodded, accepting the criticism. You're absolutely right. I'm truly sorry. By now, a small crowd had gathered. Some people had recognized both Will Smith and The Rock, and a few had their phones out, possibly recording the confrontation. This was quickly becoming a PR nightmare for Will. I think you should leave, The Rock said firmly. Brutus and I need some space right now. Will nodded again, understanding. Of course. Again, I'm so sorry. He turned to leave, feeling the weight of his mistake growing heavier with each step. And Will, The Rock called after him. Will turned back. Get some help for whatever's going on with you. This isn't like you. As Will walked away, he could hear people in the crowd whispering and the clicks of camera phones. By tomorrow, this would be everywhere. His reputation for being one of the nicest guys in Hollywood was about to take a serious hit. But right now, he wasn't thinking about his career or public image. He was thinking about the frightened dog and the disappointed look in The Rock's eyes. What kind of person had he become that he would scare an animal for his own amusement? This wasn't the Will Smith he wanted to be. By that evening, videos of the incident were all over social media. The headlines were exactly what Will had feared. Will Smith kicks The Rock's dog. Fresh Prince not so fresh. Will Smith cruel to animals. The Rock confronts Will Smith over dog incident. The videos clearly showed that Will hadn't actually touched the dog, but the sight of Brutus cowering in fear and The Rock's serious face made Will look terrible. Will sat in his home office, scrolling through his phone in disbelief. The comments were brutal. Always thought Will Smith was one of the good guys. Guess I was wrong. Who thinks scaring a helpless animal is funny? Lost all respect for him. The Rock handled it like a gentleman. Will Smith should be ashamed. His publicist had been calling non-stop, wanting to issue a statement immediately. Several movie studios had already reached out to his agent, expressing concerns about ongoing projects. Will knew he needed to respond, but he wanted his apology to be sincere, not just damage control. First, he sent a private message to The Rock. Dwayne, I can't express how sorry I am for my behavior today. It was completely out of character and inexcusable. I understand if you don't want to talk to me right now, but I would appreciate the chance to apologize to you and Brutus in person. Then he posted a video on his social media accounts. Looking directly into the camera, without any fancy lighting or makeup, Will spoke from the heart. Today, I did something I'm deeply ashamed of. I pretended to kick a dog as some kind of joke. It wasn't funny. It wasn't kind. It wasn't who I want to be. The dog, who I later learned belongs to my colleague Dwayne Johnson, was frightened, and rightly so. I want to apologize to Dwayne, to Brutus, and to everyone who has looked up to me. I let you down, and I'm sorry. I'm going to take some time to reflect on why I would do something so contrary to my values, and how I can make amends. Thank you. After posting the video, Will turned off his phone. He needed time to think, to figure out why he had acted so out of character. The pressure of fame, the constant scrutiny, the feeling that he always had to be on, it had all built up inside him until he'd lashed out in the worst way. Meanwhile, at The Rock's house, Brutus had recovered from his scare and was playing in the backyard. The Rock was sitting on his patio, watching the dog with a thoughtful expression. His phone buzzed with Will's message, and he read it twice before putting the phone down. The Rock wasn't one to hold grudges. He believed in second chances and redemption. But he also believed in consequences. Will needed to understand the impact of his actions, not just on Brutus, but on all the people who looked up to him. The Rock's girlfriend joined him on the patio. Have you seen Will's apology video? She asked. The Rock nodded. He seems genuinely sorry. Do you think he meant it? The Rock watched Brutus chasing a butterfly across the lawn. I think he did. But being sorry isn't always enough. He needs to understand why what he did was so wrong. Are you going to respond to his message? The Rock considered this. Not yet. Let him sit with it for a while. Sometimes the best lessons come from having to wait and reflect. For the next week, Will Smith withdrew from public life. He canceled appearances, postponed meetings, and spent time alone thinking about what had happened. He took long walks, meditated, and wrote in a journal, trying to understand the darkness that had overtaken him that day. One morning, as Will was having coffee in his garden, his teenage son joined him. "Dad, can we talk about what happened?" his son asked cautiously. Will nodded, though he felt a pang of shame that his son had seen him at his worst. "Of course. I just don't get it," his son said. "You're always telling me to be kind, to treat everyone with respect. Why would you do something like that?" The direct question from his son hit Will harder than any criticism online. "That's what I've been trying to figure out," he admitted. "I think I've been under so much pressure to be perfect, to be Will Smith, instead of just Will, that something inside me snapped. But that's no excuse. Have you talked to The Rock yet?" Will shook his head. "I sent him a message, but he hasn't responded." "I don't blame him." His son was quiet for a moment. "You know, when I mess up, you always tell me that apologizing is just the first step. You say I need to make it right through my actions." Will looked at his son with newfound respect. When had the boy become so wise? "You're right. That's exactly what I need to do." "But how?" Together, they brainstormed ideas. By the end of their conversation, Will had a plan. It wouldn't erase what he had done, but it might be a step toward making amends. The next day, Will made some calls. He contacted several animal welfare organizations, offering not just donations but his time and public support. He reached out to a dog training center that worked with rescue animals, asking if he could volunteer. And he started researching the impact of animal cruelty and the importance of treating all living beings with respect. What started as an attempt to make amends for one bad decision began to turn into something more meaningful. Will found himself genuinely interested in animal welfare issues. He spent hours at the rescue center, listening to the stories of dogs who had been abused or abandoned, and helping with their rehabilitation. Meanwhile, The Rock had been watching Will's actions from afar. He saw the posts from the animal welfare organizations thanking Will for his support. He heard from friends who had seen Will spending time at the rescue center, not for publicity but doing real work with the animals. Finally, 2 weeks after the incident, The Rock responded to Will's message. "Actions speak louder than words, and I've been watching yours. If you're serious about making this right, meet me at Central Paws Rescue Center tomorrow at 10 a.m. Bring a change of clothes, you don't mind getting dirty." When Will received the message, he felt a mix of relief and anxiety. This was his chance to apologize in person, but he was also nervous about facing The Rock again after what had happened. The next morning, Will arrived at Central Paws Rescue Center 15 minutes early. He wore simple jeans and a t-shirt, with a change of clothes in his backpack as instructed. The center was a large facility with both indoor and outdoor areas for the dogs, and Will could hear barking as he approached the entrance. The Rock was already there, talking with one of the staff members. When he saw Will, he gave a small nod of acknowledgement but didn't smile. "Thank you for meeting me," Will said as he approached. "Thank you for coming," The Rock replied formally. "I've been volunteering here for years. These dogs have had hard lives. Many of them have been abused or neglected. They need people they can trust." Will understood the message behind The Rock's words. Trust was easily broken but hard to rebuild. "I want to help," he said sincerely. The Rock led Will to a back area of the center where the kennels were being cleaned. "Today we're doing the less glamorous work. Cleaning kennels, washing dog beds, sorting donations. Are you up for that?" "Absolutely," Will said without hesitation. For the next several hours, Will worked alongside The Rock and other volunteers, cleaning and preparing fresh bedding for the rescue dogs. The work was physical and messy, but Will threw himself into it completely. Every kennel he cleaned meant a more comfortable space for a dog that had already suffered enough. As they worked, The Rock began to tell Will about some of the dogs at the center. "That one there, the German Shepherd mix? He was found chained to a tree, half-starved. Now he's one of our most affectionate dogs, but he still gets scared when anyone raises their voice." Will listened, understanding that The Rock was helping him see these animals as individuals with their own stories and feelings, not just props for a joke. During a short break, Will finally asked the question that had been on his mind. How's Brutus doing? The Rock's expression softened slightly at the mention of his dog. He's fine. Dogs are resilient. But he's still nervous around strangers now. Will nodded, accepting the consequence of his actions. I'm truly sorry, Dwayne. Not just for the public incident, but for betraying the trust of an innocent animal. The Rock studied Will's face, seeming to search for sincerity. After a moment, he nodded. I believe you are sorry. But here's the thing, Will. One incident like that can have lasting effects. Not just on Brutus, but on all the people who look up to you. I know, Will acknowledged. I've been thinking about that a lot. About how many kids watch my movies and follow me on social media. What kind of example was I setting? Exactly, The Rock said. But you also have the power to set a different example now. To show that everyone makes mistakes, but it's how we respond to those mistakes that matters. As they went back to work, a staff member approached them. We have a new arrival that needs special attention, she explained. A small terrier, very similar to Brutus actually. He was found wandering the streets and is extremely fearful. We can't get near him without him trembling. The Rock turned to Will. Do you want to try? Sometimes a calm presence can make a difference. Will was surprised by the offer but nodded. I'd like to try. The staff member led them to a quiet room where a small terrier that indeed looked much like Brutus was huddled in the corner of a large crate. His brown fur was matted, and he watched them with frightened eyes. His name is Lucky, the staff member said. Though he hasn't had much luck until now. Will approached the crate slowly and sat down on the floor nearby, not looking directly at the dog. The Rock watched from the doorway, his expression unreadable. Hey, Lucky, Will said softly. I know you're scared. That's okay. The world can be a pretty frightening place sometimes. Will continued talking quietly to the dog, not making any moves toward him, just letting Lucky get used to his presence and voice. After about 15 minutes, something remarkable happened. The terrier cautiously moved forward in his crate, just an inch or two, his nose twitching as he sniffed in Will's direction. That's progress, the staff member whispered from the doorway. He hasn't moved from that corner for anyone else. Will stayed with Lucky for over an hour, just talking softly and being present. By the end of the session, the dog had moved to the front of the crate, still cautious but curious. As they left the room, The Rock put a hand on Will's shoulder. You did good in there. That dog sensed your patience and kindness. Thank you for giving me the chance, Will said, to try to make things right. The Rock nodded. Everyone deserves a second chance. It's what they do with it that matters. Over the next months, Will Smith became a regular volunteer at Central Paws Rescue Center. His work with Lucky continued, and slowly the frightened terrier began to trust him. The day Lucky finally allowed Will to put a leash on him and take him for a walk was a moment of quiet triumph. The Rock often volunteered on the same days, and gradually their relationship moved from cautious politeness to genuine respect. They rarely talked about the incident that had brought them together, focusing instead on the animals they were helping. Meanwhile, the public's perception of Will began to shift as well. News outlets that had once criticized him now ran stories about his dedication to animal welfare. Photos of him cleaning kennels or walking rescue dogs appeared online, not as carefully staged publicity shots but as genuine moments captured by other volunteers. One Sunday, as Will was finishing his shift at the center, The Rock approached him with a proposal. I've been thinking about something. The center needs funds for a new wing to accommodate more rescue animals. I'm organizing a charity event next month, a fitness challenge with some other athletes and actors. Would you be interested in participating? Will was surprised and touched by the invitation. I'd be honored, though I'm not sure I can keep up with you in a fitness challenge. The Rock laughed, the first real laugh they had shared since the incident. Don't worry, we'll go easy on you. Maybe. As they walked out to the parking lot together, The Rock added, I was thinking you might want to bring your family to my place next weekend. For a barbecue. Brutus would be there. Will stopped walking, understanding the significance of the invitation. Are you sure? About Brutus, I mean. The Rock nodded. He's done really well with his training. And I think it would be good for both of you to have a positive interaction. The following weekend, Will arrived at the Rock's home with his family. He was nervous about seeing Brutus again, worried that the dog would remember him and be frightened. When they entered the Rock's backyard, Brutus was playing with a ball. The dog looked up as they approached, and Will held his breath. But instead of cowering or running away, Brutus just watched them curiously, his tail giving a tentative wag. "He doesn't seem to remember me," Will said with mixed relief and sadness. "Dogs live in the present," the Rock explained. "They don't hold grudges like people do." Will knelt down, letting Brutus approach him in his own time. The dog sniffed his hand cautiously, then allowed Will to gently pet his head. "Thank you," Will said, looking up at the Rock. "Not just for this, but for everything. For holding me accountable, for giving me the chance to be better." The Rock nodded in acknowledgement. "You know, when that video first went viral, people kept asking me if I was angry with you. I was at first. But then I realized something important." "What's that?" Will asked. "We all have moments we're not proud of. Times when we act in ways that don't reflect who we really are. The difference is, most people's worst moments aren't captured on video and shared with the world." Will understood. His mistake had been public, his redemption equally so. But there was something valuable in that transparency, in the visible journey from error to amends. Later that evening, as the families enjoyed dinner together, the Rock raised a toast. "To second chances," he said simply. "To second chances," Will echoed, feeling the weight of those words. The charity event the following month was a huge success, raising enough money for the new wing at Central Paws and bringing attention to the work the center was doing. Will and the Rock participated side by side in the fitness challenges, their friendly competition delighting the crowd. At the end of the event, they made a joint announcement. They would be co-funding a new program at the center, focused on rehabilitating dogs with fear and trust issues and educating the public about responsible pet ownership. As they left the stage together, the Rock said quietly to Will, "You know what the best part of this is? That it's not just about making amends anymore. It's become something real for you, hasn't it?" Will nodded. "It has. These animals, what they've taught me about trust and forgiveness, it's changed me." And it was true. What had begun as a terrible mistake had led Will Smith to discover a new purpose. The man who had once pretended to kick a dog for a laugh now spent his free time helping animals heal from abuse and neglect. The actor, known for his perfect public image, had shown the world that even role models make mistakes, and that owning those mistakes and working to make things right is the true measure of character. As for Brutus, the Rock's resilient terrier, he had moved on from the incident long ago. Dogs, after all, don't dwell on the past or worry about the future. They live fully in the present moment, offering lessons in forgiveness and second chances to anyone wise enough to learn from them.